Go back to the drawing board again to explain the concept of derivatives. Okay, when you're taking a derivative, let's say you have a function y equals x squared. Y equals x squared. When you take a derivative of y, so that's dy, that's the notation only, over dx. This just tells us rate of change in y when the x changes by a small amount. The derivative then here will be x to the power of 2 minus 1, which is 2x. So the original power is pre-multiplied by the function after taking derivative. So in general, if you generalize it, so x to the power a is basically a times x a minus 1. This is the power rule. So I'm going to stop here. There are division rule, multiplication rule, many other rules. And we go back here because this is enough to understand how we got the value here. Notice here. You see, original function was 60 minus 15p plus p squared. Now, maybe I'll go back again. Minus 15 plus 2p. Now, since this is the value here, you see dq over dp, we have to now evaluate this. We need to get a number for this one. Evaluate this at price 3. When the price is equal to 3. So we just plug in p equal to 3 into this formula. Remember that we are evaluating at prices 3, quantity is 24. So plug that into here to get minus 9. Use this now to plug that into here. That gives us minus 9 times p over q. And p over q is given to us 3 and 24 from the details here. Yeah, 3 at this point. The coordinates of this point is that 3 pounds and 24 units. So plug that in here, gives us the price elasticity of demand at a point here, at this point. It does look a lengthy process, but it's very short. It doesn't take time. You just need to do practice. Yeah, I'll upload some practice materials. As I said, this will not come in your first test, but later. You need to have a good command of derivatives for the later classes. For the later test and then final exam. It's not a difficult one, yeah? And by then you will by the final, you will have a very good understanding of derivatives because some of you are taking calculus, some of you have taken, so you will have a chance to revise as well. If you think you need practice on this, I'll upload some more materials, reader-friendly materials on how to take derivatives and how to work with derivatives in economics. You just need to drop me an email. Okay, next. Now, just like as we saw earlier with arc elasticity of demand at different points changes over time. At different points. So let's look at this now. We have points N, M, I, K. Point N is where price is high, quantity demanded is low, but point K is where price is low and quantity demanded is high. And remember the formula for price elasticity of demand at points is that one, 1 over slope times PQ. Now, if we just evaluate it at each point, if you know the slope, we can work out price elasticity of demand who's going to be different. What we know here is that 1 over slope is constant, right? It won't change at any point. It will be the same at any point, 1 over slope. But at each point, we have different prices and quantities combination. So price elasticity of demand naturally changes at each point as we go down along the curve. Yeah? Look at this. So 1 over slope is minus 50 over 10. That is minus 5. It doesn't change at any point. N, M, I, K will have the same slopes because it's a straight line. But if you go down further and plug in the numbers P and Q, they vary. 8 over 10 at point N, it's 6 over 20 at point M, it's 4 over 30 at point I, and it's 2 over 40 at point K. You see, it's changing. Because of the prices and quantity combination changing, our price elasticity of demand changes as well along the curve. Is this point clear to you? Yeah? At each point, price elasticity of demand changes. For example, what's the price elasticity of demand at point N using these functions, formulas? Can you tell me, please? Just quickly, you have all the information there on the board. Anyone? What's the price elasticity of demand at point N? Given the slope, 1 over slope value, and P over Q values. Sorry? Negative 4? Yes, it's negative 4, yeah? And try to find at point K now. So demand is very elastic at point N. Keep that in mind. Highly elastic, in other words. Now try to do it for K. The values for K is not shown here, but you just have the coordinates, yeah? K, at point K, price is 2, quantity is 40, negative 1 over 2, yeah? At point K. Yeah? You see, at two extremes, the elasticities are very high. Sorry, at the high extreme, elasticity is very high. At the lower extreme, K point, elasticity is low. Does this make sense to you guys? Yes.
Y over 2? You said what's the answer for the...
Point K? It's minus 1 over 2. What did you get?
I got...
Minus 5 times 2 over 40.
10 over 40, right?
Yes.
So why...
1 over 4.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Negative 1 over 4. Very small elasticity. I got my own calculation wrong. Sorry. So, does this make sense to you guys? High elasticity at the high prices, low elasticity at low prices. Does make sense, right? When the a product is already expensive, slight increase in the price makes it even more expensive. So, we tend to, as consumers, buy something cheaper, right? We swap substitutes. So, demand for this product is elastic. But at lower prices, an increase in the price is not that much. Yeah, we keep buying that. Yeah? So, for the same product, price elasticity demand could be different at different prices. And we also know that it could also be different over time as well. So, the price range also matters here. Okay. Any questions on this? Price elasticity of supply. It is the same formula as in demand. And in the case of demand, yeah, we will have the same formula. Quantity supplied, change in quantity supplied over quantity supplied over change in price over price. Again, this is a midpoint formula. Nothing new. Easy. Now, what are the determinants then? What are the determinants of the elasticity of supply with respect to price? What determines? Now, at this point, I want to ask you a quick question. What were the determinants that we talked about? What were the determinants of demand elasticity? Price elasticity of demand, sorry. Price elasticity of demand. What determines the price elasticity of demand? You can look at your notes if you cannot remember now.
Price of substitutes and change in income.
Change in income, time period. Is it change in income or something else? It's a proportion of income, yeah? It's the amount of income spent on the good. Yeah, that determines the elasticity of demand. Then, what else did we say? Substitutes and complementary goods, closeness of them, yeah? And availability as well. And then time period. Over time, initially, demand elasticity could be unchanging, it may not change, but over time it will change. Immediately, demand for something will, necessities, for example, may not change. Even the prices are increasing, but over time we tend to substitute away. Okay, the same determinants hold here, except that apart from time period, you can look at the amount of that costs rise as output rises. Remember, supply is about amount of output. Supply increases means output increases. So if a price changes in a product, if the price of a product changes, especially when it rises, we expect the suppliers to provide more of this good in the hope of selling at high prices. But if producing that extra good is expensive, is going to cost more, producers do not supply. So making that additional unit has to be cheaper for the supply to increase in response to price increases. As a result, we say that amount of the cost of raw materials determine the supply. Yeah? Elasticity. We might see the prices rising, but if supplying that additional unit is expensive or doesn't create that much of margin, then suppliers may not supply. So we need to have capacity here. So manufacturers should have the capacity to produce that extra good. I have a good example of that as well. Cabbages. Have you read the newspaper? Are you not reading the business news, guys? Yes, what happened?
There's a shortage.
Shortage of cabbages in the UK. Not because of Brexit. It's something else. The suppliers were unable to produce extra cabbages in the last few weeks, or unable to supply extra cabbages. As a result, what we have is the rationing in supermarkets. If you go to supermarkets, in the cabbage section, you will see a notice board saying 2 cabbages per customer, maximum 2 cabbages you can buy, so that everyone can have a hand on them. This is because suppliers are not able to supply enough due to weather and climate change in Mediterranean and I think Spanish areas in Spain where the cabbages are grown and where the supply comes from apparently. So now to produce extra cabbage, they'll have to create that area. It's going to cost a lot. So making that supply available to the UK supermarkets is not possible. So the amount of money they're going to spend is going to be a lot for these suppliers. So they won't supply it. As a result, elasticity of supply is low at the moment. But over time it will change. So the time period does matter as well. So does that make sense to you guys? The amount that costs rise as output rises. Yeah? If making that additional unit is expensive, supply may not be available. Yeah? Extra supply may not be available. And time period, we're going to have a look at that time period example here. Let's assume that this is a slightly different example, but I think I can simplify it a bit. It's a good animation, but I think the way time period affects the elasticity can be explained in a slightly different way as well. Let me draw it on the board. So we're going to have immediate as well. So let's say example. And this example is similar, but it's slightly you will have the demand as well with new equilibrium prices, but we don't need this because it gets messy as we increase the number of curves on the slides. Yeah. Okay. Now we've done that. We've done this. Next is income elasticity of demand with its determinants. The concept of income elasticity of demand is the same as the price elasticity of demand in terms of measurement. The only thing is this, that you replace P's with I's, income. I stands for income. Now, income elasticity of demand measures the sensitivity of demand with respect to changes in income, or with respect to income. As our income rises, we tend to consume greater proportions of the same good, or we consume more expensive goods as our income rises. Yeah? As we get richer and richer, we tend to consume slightly different products. You think of yourself, if you are not living here, if you're living in student dormitories, you don't have a meal deal and you always cook yourself. You go to Tesco and you tend to buy cheaper alternatives, yeah? Cheaper ranges like supermarket's own range, value range. But let's say you graduate and then you find a job. You start working as an investment banker. Now you go back to Tesco and you buy now luxury. Yeah? Luxury premium rice. Not our own brand of Tesco rice, yeah? So like the what's this Indian rice? Sorry? Basmati rice now. So you see, demand for rice changes. Yeah, you tend to buy basmati rice, even the premium quality one. Yeah, as your income rises. So this here, elasticity of income with demand with respect to income measures sensitivity of demand to income changes. In other words, determinants of it. By the way, before we go further, we divide the goods into two types, depending on how elastic demand for them, or the value of elasticity of demand for them. Now, we have normal goods and inferior goods in economics. Now, these are the goods. Let me define it differently. When we say inferior goods, we do not imply goods are low quality. They are not. In economics, inferior goods are those goods for which demand declines as income rises. So inferior goods are goods for which demand declines as income rises. So as we get richer, we consume less of this good. And that's an inferior good, but doesn't mean low quality good. But normal good is when demand rises as our income rises. So these are normal goods. Give an example of normal good from your own experience, for example. Do you play Xbox or PlayStation, boys? No? Some of them say no, it's a good boys. I'm joking, of course. I mean, at least you played in the past. Imagine that you buy two sets of games for your Xbox. As your income rises, you buy more of these games, right? Different, yeah? So Xbox games are normal good. But imagine as you get richer and richer, you tend to eat less and less of sweet corn, baked beans, yeah, canned beans. So these are inferior goods because you now demand less. Your demand is lesser for these goods as you get richer because you now substitute them with God knows what, premium quality goods, yeah, from Waitrose. But as you can see, this doesn't imply that inferior good is a poor quality good. You can have a premium sweet corn as well, good quality good. It's just as your income rises, the demand for them will decline. And when you calculate using this formula, if the value is negative, then that's indication of inferior good. So we don't take absolute value here. The way we distinguish between normal and inferior goods when calculating income elasticity of demand is by looking at the sign of the result. If the result has a positive sign, we're looking at income elasticity of demand for a normal good. If the result is negative, or the value has a negative value, the negative sign, the income elasticity of demand, then that is income elasticity for inferior good. So in the test, you will be asked after calculations whether the good is inferior or not, or normal, and explain it basically. Okay. What determines the income elasticity of demand? These are degree of necessity. With necessity goods, we keep buying them even if our income goes down or up. And also proportion of income spent on good as well is another determinant. If a good price, the product's price is high, and we're spending huge amount on it, we give it a second kind of thought before you purchase it, given that your income is declining. Yeah, let's say more expensive goods, we try to consume less of them as our income declines. But if the good makes up a very small amount of our proportion of income, then we keep buying it anyway. Yeah. Okay, now next concept is cross price elasticity of demand. Notice that here it's a slightly different formula, but it's arc elasticity again. We will use the arc method, arc elasticity method. Change in quantity demanded of product A over midpoint of quantity demanded divided by the same ratio. But now price is of product B. Prices are of product B, yeah, not the product A. So we're comparing, so we are looking at the demand for product A when the price of product B changes, not its own price. Yeah, this is cross price elasticity. Cross price elasticity. So you can give an example here yourselves to calculate this. So one example is that product A could be Xbox, product B could be games. If the price of games increase, demand for Xbox most likely decline. Yeah? So we can calculate the cross price elasticity for Xbox with respect to change in the price of games using this formula. Or you can also calculate the quantity demanded for Xbox with respect to the prices of PlayStation, Sony PlayStation. And when price elasticity, cross price elasticity of demand for Xbox increases, as the price of PlayStation increases, then these goods are substitutes, because price of the other good increases leads to the quantity demanded of this good increasing. Yeah, this must be substitutes. People tend to buy Xboxes, giving up the idea of purchasing PlayStations. If, however, as the price of the good B increases and quantity demanded of good A decreases, then these two goods must be complements, because price of, let's say, games are increasing, demand for Xbox declining. So these are complements, they come together. And determines is how close the determinants of this price, cross price elasticity of demand depends on how close the substitutes and complements are, or how complementary or substitutable products are you comparing. High price elasticity, cross price elasticity implies goods are substitutes. Increase in price of product B leads to high increase in quantity demanded of product A. Yeah, with a small increase in price of B, people tend to buy A, more of A. So that must be the case of substitutes. With the increase of price in B, quantity demanded in A declines by large amount. That must be a case of complements, because price of, let's say, price of Sony PlayStation games increasing leads to demand for PlayStations going down, or increase in the price of cartridges for HP printers, desktop printers, leads to the demand for these printers to go down. Yeah, so this is a case of substitution when the cross price elasticity is low. Any questions on this? If you do not have any question, that's it for today.